ask and you shall receive. So today we're going to cover this custom Tamiya Bruiser. But before we dive into the truck, I just want to thank the YouTube user. I'll put his username up in a picture up here, who commented on one of the other videos and said that he was interested in knowing more about this truck. And that's something that I enjoy. So like when you guys are interactive with what I'm talking about, asking questions, asking to see other cars, trucks, whatever it may be, that's something that I really enjoy doing, and I try to do my best to answer any questions you guys may have. Or if there's a particular car or truck you want to see, I have no problem shooting a video for that. So with that said, this truck was asked about. It was asked if we can cover this, and also the Bruiser back there. So we'll get to that one as well at some point shortly. But for now, we'll talk about this one. So this truck was inspired by a RC Car Action Reader's Ride submission dating back to May of 1989. So I'll put the pictures up of what that looked like in the magazine. It was actually in the magazine twice. It was first shown in Reader's Rides in May, and then it was later again seen as a second place winner, if I'm not mistaken, for Reader's Rides of the Year. So that truck was pretty custom as far as being a Bruiser in that time period. It had the larger clodbuster size tires and wheels on it, and we'll talk a little bit more about who made those and all their all the stuff about those as far as their rarity and things like that. So yeah, so this one here is my rendition of that truck. And this one didn't start out looking this way, but I kind of made it into what you see here today. So this truck was actually a Facebook find on a page I had belonged to on Facebook called Old School RC. And it was listed for sale quite a few years back. And at the time, Bruisers were still, getting decent money, but not crazy money because of the re-release. But the truck had a really nice paint job, which I was drawn to, and it was just priced right. I think it was like $400 or something like that, if I remember correctly. So I purchased the truck, and it just was kind of like a shelf piece for the time being until I got this idea to turn it into a monster Bruiser. So in order for that to occur, you kind of had to have the right tires, or more importantly, the right wheels for it. So these wheels that are on the truck here, these were made by a company called Action Mag. Action Mag was big in the late 80s, early 90s. They were an aluminum wheel manufacturer that made clodbuster size aluminum wheels for the clodbuster, as well as clodbuster size wheels for the Bruiser. They also made dual wheel setups, so you could have 8 wheels on your clodbuster, Blackfoot, Lunchbox, Tamiya cars of that nature. So these wheels are pretty hard to come by, and I finally found a set several years back. A buddy of mine, Mike Galvin, had built up a Mountaineer, and he had actually found the wheels and the tires and had purchased them. And later on, he kind of dismantled the truck and was parting it out, and I was able to score the wheels and tires from him. So these have the vintage diamond patterned spike tires from, I believe it was made by Duratrax, if I'm not mistaken. And they're a really cool rounded tire, and the wheels are actually, they're clodbuster size, but they're a direct bolt-on to the clodbuster axle. So they were actually technically a 2-piece wheel design, and I'll show you guys what I mean by that later when we get up and close personal with the truck. The backside's actually like TIG welded in or whatever. It wasn't made from just one solid chunk of aluminum. It's like they milled the wheel out, and then they made the center insert, and then that kind of got pressed and then welded into the wheel. So a little bit different way of doing it back then. I don't know if it was due to the machining processes at that point or whatever the case may be, but either way, they're actually a pretty cool rare wheel and not something you see too often. I am fortunate enough to actually have 2 sets of these. I had scored another set a couple years back that I'm saving for a special project, but this one I just recently was able to kind of get it where I want it to be. I have a little bit more work left to do on it. You may be able to see in the video here that there is no rear drive shaft in it, and that's because I recently just did a bunch of work to this thing. So for starters, it got a CChand aluminum front bumper. The side nerf bars are actually original Tamiya ones that were chrome plated at some point, as well as on the rear bumper. The truck then features Juggernaut leaf springs, which have a much higher arc than the factory Bruiser spring, which was a common thing to do on the Bruisers way back in the RCMT Easy Board days, to give the truck a little bit of lift and fit the larger 2.2 tires like the Groundhogs and things like that. It then also has Juggsterr dual shock mounts, front, back, and a quad shock mounting kit on the rear. Due to the fact that Trinity shocks are so hard and expensive to come by these days, I did end up sourcing a newer age threadless shock body shock off of eBay in a nice anodized blue with a slimmer body and no threads, so it kind of gives the vibe of the old school style shocks. The other nice thing about this truck is the axles came out of another truck that I had purchased, and they're actually chrome plated. So a couple of nice little upgrades on this thing. Probably one of my favorite parts of this truck is this here tonneau cover. And this was actually made by Matt from Scale Hobbies. And if you've been around a long time, Matt was a guy that did, I believe, what they referred to as rapid prototyping, which I think was almost like an earlier variant of 3D printing. Like very early, like probably 2004, 2005 early. So pretty cool. It's textured, like that of what a leather bed cover would be. So it's got the little, rib nuts in it that, as the scale details for like the snaps. And the truck just has a really nice paint job on it. Other than that, it's pretty much a stock Bruiser for the most part. Just a couple little minor things to make it into a monster Bruiser like the one that was in RC Car Action. So yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. Like I said, not too much to talk about. It is basically just a Bruiser with some slight mods to it. But I'll bring you guys up close and personal with it. I'll show you what the backside of those wheels looks like so you have an idea of what I mean about that. And we'll go from there. Alright, so let's check this thing out up close so you guys can get an idea. First and foremost, it has a really nice paint job on it. And then someone did some nice, old school style chroming on the side and pinstriping. And, that was originally what drew me to the truck when it was listed for sale. I've had probably 36 or so Bruisers and Mountaineers and things over the years. And I had actually had a couple other Bruisers at that point. But, when you see one that's this nice, it was just kind of something I felt like I had to grab. So, yeah, it was just a really nice, clean model. Like I said, I added this pretty cool scale tonneau cover from Matt at Scale Hobbies. You can see it's got the little snap rivets and everything in there. And it's textured, which kind of resembles that of an actual leather tonneau cover. And like I had stated earlier, it's got, chrome-plated factory Nerf bars and a chrome-plated rear bumper. And then it also has the CChand front bumper on there. Just because I had a chrome-plated one, but unfortunately the chroming process, probably during the late 80s, early 90s, was not very good. So the chrome was actually flaking off of it. So I went with the chromed CChand variant of it, and it just kind of fits the truck nicely. The wheels, like I said, are pretty custom as far as that time period. They were machined out to fit the factory Bruiser hubs, and they are clodbuster size. So, it gives it that old school monster truck look. If you're a Toyota fan like me, you'll know what Toyota stands for. I don't think I could probably say that on YouTube, but it goes something along the lines of take off your oversized tires, and you could probably figure out what the A stands for. So a little humor there for us Toyota guys. Underneath the truck, you can see it's a pretty clean chassis setup. This chassis was actually painted either with like a real gloss black, basic clear coat automotive paint, or was powder coated because it's super shiny. The Juggsterr dual shock mounts, and you can see the shocks that I utilized from eBay. These are really nice. They could be, done internally sprung, but obviously with a Bruiser and a leaf spring, it's not really necessary to have. the internal springs inside there. And then on the back, you can see the quad shock mounting kit and the chromed rear axle. Like I said, these axles were actually from another truck that I had purchased, and I had, you know, kept the axles. They were really nice, and it had some RC full drive, upgraded steering linkage, and also the old school style aluminum lower shock mounts on it as well. So yeah, let me I'm going to show you guys too. I want you to see what the wheels look like from the backside. Let me pull out the other set of wheels that I have here. Alright, so I pulled out the other set of wheels just so you guys can get an idea here of what they look like off of the truck. And what I was talking about earlier, and you can kind of see here, is how they are either welded or actually like possibly aluminum brazed of some sort on the backside. So from what I could tell is they actually machined the barrels of the wheels and then probably, I'm guessing, you know, pressed the centers in and then actually, you know, welded or brazed them from there. You know, I don't know if that was just an easier process or maybe if it had something to do with the, you could see, because they're meant to fit the Bruiser, you know, the offset on these things, they have a really super deep dish, you know, kind of like an old school weld that you would see on a real truck. So I don't know if maybe it has something to do with getting the tooling in there and not being able to cut the centers out. So maybe that's why they did it that way. You know, unfortunately, with Action Mag being long gone at this point, we'll probably never know. But either way, these are pretty cool wheels. You know, they're not as common these days. You don't just really see them anymore. So it's, you know, I'm pretty fortunate to have the two sets of them. But yeah, so if you guys like this video, please do remember to give it a thumbs up, like and subscribe it to the channel if you haven't already. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Probably going to maybe do another Bruiser video, or I'm actually considering maybe doing a little you know, build as far as a new vehicle that I got. Maybe we'll kind of cover it and a little bit of video action as I go along putting it together. So we'll see what happens with that. But if I don't see you guys beforehand, everyone have a safe and happy New Year. Thanks.